Need to do like an ASMR video one day. We could just do like...
Let's do an ASMR introduction today. You ready? Can we time it? Shake your drink. Come on.
Like,
give it a sniff.
but really...
Sip. Hey guys, welcome to the Sip and Rip It podcast. I'm Zach, he's Nathan.
You can find us on Instagram at Sip and Rip It, at Nathan Skedios, and at ZG
_
Summer Shred Journey. Yep. You can also do us a favor and rate us 5 stars on Spotify.
Yeah, please. Rate us 5 stars on Spotify.
If you've been listening for the past like 10 episodes, and we've asked you to do it 10 times now, and you still haven't done it, are you any better than like the men who like don't do the chores that have been asked several times, and then the wife just does them themselves?
Did Safety put you up?
She didn't mention anything to me about it. It was kind of off the cuff.
For the record, anything that goes undone, I pay somebody else to do.
I have that problem where I have so many things that I know I need to do, and I want to do them, and I think about doing them, and I'm just like, too tired. I'll do it some other time.
It becomes overwhelming at some point, isn't it?
I'm sure, like, it's already overwhelming. Well, it's not really overwhelming. There's like 5 or 6 things that really need to be done, and I just forget about them. That's the biggest problem, is I forget about them.
Get caught up in that daily, man. It's rough sometimes. It is what it is.
Yeah. So we got some fruity drinks today.
Oh, yeah, because I was so just petrified of drinking whiskey this week because of the screwball protein powder combo.
Which, if you haven't watched, it's on our TikTok and our Instagram.
I decided to go about as weak as you could go, and I got some coconut rum and some pineapple juice, and that's what we're sipping on tonight.
Yeah. I mean, it's refreshing though.
It is fucking good.
It's nice. It's like I'm not really.
I think we need to do this every week until we get to go to our beach trip. I think we need to get it. This should just be our primer for our beach trip in May.
Oh man, we could do it. We could change it up a little bit, but we could have like some sort of fruity drink every week up until
coconut rum and Coke, coconut rum and pineapple, coconut rum and orange juice, coconut rum and other types of rum.
There's one. It's like coconut rum, pineapple juice, coconut cream, and blue curacao.
Oh, I'm with it. Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah. That'd be good. I know that'd be good. What is it? Liquid marijuana would be good.
Yeah.
A blue Hawaiian for some of you people, for you more PG oriented folks. You one and dones, the people that ain't gonna drink more than one drink. You responsible dessert drinker, bitches.
That's me.
You subproblems.
Hey now.
I'm messing with you.
Hey now. Sometimes I'll have 2 drinks.
So I have to share I did not invent this. I had 2 friends of mine who they're really no longer friends of mine. They're kind of dirtbags.
It's one of them Wes Harris.
No, one of them is not your cousin. I do love your Wes. I do, but Wes is a little bit of a lowlife, but I am too, so it's okay.
I think he would probably attest to that, though.
His brand is more palatable than most, to be honest with you. I mean, yeah, he's just dirty old guitar player. He's my people. It's fine. Right. Now these 2 though, Wes was actually on this trip, but have you ever had Tampico?
Mm-mm.
Okay, it's like off-brand Sunny D, but there's multiple flavors of it. So where Sunny D is just a handful of flavors, there's like a bunch of flavors of Tampico. Yeah. So these idiots drink that Tampico gallon, 2 of them, down about halfway, and then they filled it up with coconut rum and lime rumple mints, the schnapps.
Okay.
So it's got 2 bottles, basically 2 bottles of liquor in it.
Yeah.
And a half, only a half gallon of Tampico. And they called it the blood of Christ. And they wrote all these satanic things, imagery on the outside of the jug. And we proceeded to drink it. And I tell you what, it was good. The blood of Christ is the truth. It will lead you home.
Or somewhere.
It'll lead you somewhere. That particular night led us to a bar called... now it's called Food Bar, but at the time it was called Hellenbach in Fort Walton, Florida, where we proceeded to run up a $2,000 bill as a whole after another friend of ours who was entirely too kind was bragging about his new job and offered to pay the tab. So we just went buck wild. Not even the worst part of the story. We got to finish this now. So we're out with there's 15 of us. Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of us. We ordered pizza, we ordered drinks, we ordered all these things, and poor Scott's like, I'll pick up this bill. Well, after a night of drinking, we all decide we're going to call taxis because we can't walk home. We're going to jump in these taxis, we're going to go. So it takes like 3 or 4 taxis to get us all there.
Right.
And me and Sandy and our friend Jackson getting one taxi, and we cruise on back, and everybody else is separated.
Just to clarify, is this Jackson that looks like a lesbian?
No, this is not Jackson Carr, although he was also on this trip. This is Jackson Brown.
Okay.
That's funny though.
I just heard the name.
He has facial hair now.
Does he?
Yeah, he does. Good for him. Anyway, so we all get in this car. Scott pays the bill, and we all get in these taxis, and we go back to the condo. Get to the condo, and Scott's not there. We had left Scott, the guy that paid the nearly $2,000 bar tab, at the bar, and he had to walk back.
He couldn't call a taxi?
He was so drunk he didn't know what was going on.
No.
So he started walking back, and at some point he said he just gave up, sat down on a park bench on the side of the road and started crying.
Oh, no.
And he said he sat there for like half an hour before he looked up and realized he was across the street from the condo. Like he had given up at the very last minute, basically. But I felt so bad because this guy legitimately paid, like, it might not have been $2,000, but it was well over $1,000 bar tab. And like I said, he paid for 15 of us.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Basically unlimited drinks for 15 of us. So he had an enormous tab. And yeah, that's how we ceased to be friends with Scott Little, because he probably hated all of our guts. That's not the case. He still loves us. But anyway, yeah, he got stranded on the side of the road, started crying because we all left him at a bar with a huge bar tab.
That's terrible.
I owe him several nights out of drinking, probably, to be honest with you. It was an honest mistake.
Yeah, no, I mean...
We were all waiting in the parking lot. Cabs show up. We jump in and go. We had no idea he was still inside paying the tab.
It's just sad.
The way it shook out, it was so sad. So sad. What about PR songs?
PR songs. So I've got a couple. You want to start us off?
Yeah, so in celebration of John Bernthal getting to come back as my favorite Punisher ever, I'm going to plug two songs that are on my workout playlist anyway. But they were from the trailers from the first and second seasons of The Punisher. And one is One by Metallica, which I fucking love. The last half of that song absolutely fucking rips.
We talked about that on the last podcast.
Oh, I know, but it's on the playlist officially. Did I put it on the playlist last time?
I don't know, but I just know we talked about it.
One. Yeah. One's fucking awesome. It's on the 4th studio album by the greatest of the Big Four, period. I'm saying that. Sorry, Slayer.
I was going to say,
Slayer's it ain't Anthrax or Megadeth, let's be honest.
No, it's either Slayer or Metallica, and Metallica's probably, from a popularity standpoint, they're always going to win.
Probably the king, yeah. Anyway, and the other one is Wood by Alice in Chains. Fucking awesome. It was in the second season trailer, and that really fucking pumped me up. And then my third entry is Goddamn Electric by Pantera. So I went basically 3 pretty classic metal bands. So
pretty solid choices, though. They're all
good songs. They're all bangers.
Songs. I haven't listened to Alice in Chains in a while. I know weren't they touring and they had Phil Anselmo for a little while? No,
they got the mix kid that sings really good. He does Giraffe Tongue Orchestra with Brent Hines or whatever too. Brent Hines, whatever his name is.
Yeah, Brent
from Macedon, and he's a really talented dude. He sounds like Lane.
Yeah,
but he's been with them probably 10 or 15 years.
I just thought that there was a time period like
you're talking about. Pantera is on tour with obviously Phil, Rex, and then.
No, this would have been like...
I don't remember who the drummer is.
This would have been like years ago, 10 years ago.
That may be the case.
I just thought I remember my brother telling me he was going to an Alice in Chains show, and he was like getting pumped because Phil had been popping in here and there and like doing the show as the lead singer for them, but he didn't show up for that show. So.
No, it just is what it is.
All right, so on my side, I guess I'm gonna go, since you went all old school, I'm gonna go all new school.
There you go.
So this is Befouler by Of Sulfur, also featuring Alex the Terrible. If you don't know who that is,
from the Russian band.
Yeah, Slaughter to Prevail. Really good song. It's really heavy.
What was the name of the song one more time?
Befouler.
Okay.
Of Sulfur is one of the bands that I've been listening to a lot here lately, at least newer bands, and like just everything they've come out with, I've been pretty stoked about. I just keep them. I like to keep them on my radar. And then another newer band. We're gonna go with Dynasty by Brand of Sacrifice, and I think they've been on the list before. I think I went with Charlotte or Claw Marks or something. But I think this was their newest single that they put out. It's really good. They're like, if you haven't listened to them, they're like very like almost like techno death metal. Like they've got a lot of like electronic beats. If that makes sense. But they're really dope. I like them a lot. And then the last one, well, this one's not like super new, but Sterling Black Icon by Fragments of Unbecoming, and they're a band I listened to like years ago, back when I was first getting into metal. They are a German death metal band, and they're very like melodic, so like very thematic, I guess.
That's a
good word. But yeah, been a fan of them for a long time. Their best album was probably their second one, which was Sterling Black Icon. And that was the first album I listened to. Everything else after that, they had like bits and pieces that I liked, but really that was...
I'm going to have to listen to them because I don't think I've ever actually heard of them. I listen to Brand of Sacrifice sometimes.
Yeah, Brand of Sacrifice.
And then the Of Sulfur song we talked about before is Lost, is that correct?
Lost?
Lost, what is the name of that song? Something similar. I'm trying to think.
I don't remember Lost.
What is that song? I'm trying to think. See. I'll find it in a second.
In the meantime, listen to the...
Yeah, it's Lost.
Lost?
By Of Sulfur. It's on the EP for 2021. Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Dope song. But I think it was actually a suggestion by you, ironically.
Weird. I don't remember that at all.
Yeah,
but...
well, it slaps, so listen to it.
Yeah, I should.
Yeah, since you like Of Sulfur.
I guess the last thing really is the gym. What do we do this week?
Nothing. Really. I mean, I had a normal week, first half of the week, and then I traveled to Horror Hound weekend in Cincinnati and did that. So the only thing I've done recently is Friday I did a, basically body weight leg workout. I did body weight squats, good mornings, calf raises. I did some lunges, and then did some sit-ups. So...
Just some,
I mean, yeah, it probably lasted, 20, 25 minutes tops. So
pretty much just something to get some work in.
Yeah, just basically keep, I got that injury I'm recovering from, so I just needed some blood in my legs. And also after driving all day Thursday, I was really kind of hurting, honestly. So I really don't think I could have got under a barbell anyway.
That's fair.
Just is what it is. And then Saturday was just too busy to get into the gym.
Yeah.
So we had a bunch of, scary shit to go look at the horror convention. So pizza to eat and... Yeah.
Pizza to eat, yeah. You told me about that.
Yeah, so I did
break
stray off the path for pizza, but I really didn't eat a lot this weekend. First night, me and Sandy shared a pizza.
Mm-hmm.
Second night, I did have my own 10-inch, but we had really light lunches. We didn't eat a lot in general, to be honest with you. On the scale today, I weighed the same as I did when I left, so I didn't lose, but I didn't gain any either. So I'm really not worried about it. Also, tomorrow I start a much more aggressive diet. I'm not necessarily going keto because I don't know how much I believe that anymore, but I am going, sub 100 gram of carbs for the next probably 3 to 4 weeks. Yeah. So that's the plan.
That's fair. I've heard carnivore stories all the time, so
I really like carnivore diet because it's really comfortable. My problem is that I've done carnivore and keto both so many times,
just not sure if it's effective for your body.
Yeah, it's because I know how to manipulate it now. I know on carnivore I can eat ribeye all day and uncured bacon, nitrate free bacon, and still get fat as fuck and be perfectly fucking happy and not lose a pound. Yeah. Or I can eat chicken wings all goddamn day. Right. I mean, it's stuff like that. So, I just don't know that it's just the best thing for me. So I'm basically just, very, very protein heavy, very fat heavy foods. And I'm still logging in. I'm probably going to start logging and tracking tomorrow, too, because that'll be the first time. I'm down basically 20 pounds, and that'll be the first time I've logged and tracked since starting. So
yeah. You're going to do a lot of vegetables, kind of like...
Yeah, I'm going to. I'm having some, not to get too into it, but I'm having some gut health issues, and I think that picking up the veggies is probably going to help that a lot, to be honest with you. So
that's fair.
It's not that I don't eat them now. It's just that I'm not eating them consistently enough for them to make a difference. So, a vegetable at every meal, that kind of thing. Yeah. Probably going to start doing that this week. So.
Cool. Me in the gym, kind of pretty much the same stuff I did last month. No big changes. I think I did 315 for 8 on bench, moved really well. Deadlift was like 5.
Been at 525 yet?
525 for 8. Yeah, because next week I'll do 535, and that'll be the heaviest I've touched this prep. This
strength block.
Yeah, block is the word I'm looking for. It's kind of a block. It's a huge block, I guess. Like 5 months, 6 months, something like that. It's going to be a couple months out from October when it ends. So,
but you got a plan. So
yeah,
you call it whatever you want to.
That's true. It's a plan.
It's a cycle at that point. If it's more than a block, it's multiple blocks. Right? He has a plan.
Blocks, yeah.
That's what he has.
It's an idea. It's a rough idea, but no. And then I did PR, baby 5-pound PR on my incline close grip, which again, still love it. 255 for 10. Gonna try probably like 265 next week. I think it'll go well.
Hell yeah.
And then what is going to actually lead us into the main subject today is my squats, which suck. So I've been having a lot of lower back pain on my squats. We've tried to fix it a lot. I tried to point my toes out, thought it worked. Maybe it worked a little bit. Maybe it was placebo. But butt week came back, so there was still some lower back pain. I did, I think I was supposed to do 415 for 8, but I was trying to fix my squat all prior to doing the squat. So I was really fatigued from all the singles at like 315, 365, stuff like that. It was just like, it was too much. I was mentally worn out. So I got it for like 5, and I got really frustrated, and I did a couple more singles, and then I just called it because I was getting frustrated, and I was having a pretty bad day, just all around. I felt later on in the day, I actually felt sick at work, and I went home early because I just was not a good day, in an all around term. But anyway, that's basically what we're going to talk about today is how to fix butt wink, at least how we diagnosed it, how we went through what my problem was, how we eventually got to a fix, and hopefully continue to.
So let's start by defining what we're talking about by butt wink, because not everybody might know. But basically what's going to happen is at the bottom, toward the bottom of your squat, the bottom end range of your squat, you're going to see your tailbone physically like sweep like under your spine. Does it make sense? So it's basically going to turn literally this motion at the bottom of your squat, right?
Pelvic tuck, right?
Yeah, it's a pelvic tuck. Yeah, so basically, most of the time you have either neutral hips or even slightly anterior pelvic tilt in your squat. Ideally, you would have a neutral. But basically what happens is, and most of the time it's a mobility issue, at the bottom end range of that squat, you have something that is pulling your pelvis forward. Mm-hmm. It can really be a lot of things. Nathan touched on it. It can be toe angle, which he tried. Wasn't toe angle. He widened his stance. He narrowed his stance. He did a lot of different things, right? Yeah. And basically, what we kind of came to, and I have a lot of experience with this personally, and we'll get into that in a little bit too. But basically, what it came to is either a lack of mobility in your hips, or maybe a potential misalignment of your hips, or even a little bit of both. Because we did an X-ray, so we don't know if there's a misalignment or not. But for sure, I'm not speculating, there was a mobility issue, basically.
Yeah. So one of the things that I noticed, really, this was before butt wink ever came into the picture. When I would squat down, there would be a lot of like violent shaking, like in my, basically in my entire lower chain to my knees. There was just a bunch of instability. So instantly I talked to you about that, and we're like, well, that could be several things, just like everything else. It could be several things. I think we went with I know.
Generally, when I see instability in a hip, knee, or even ankle, generally the first thing I try to, because it's an American problem because we sit too much, the first thing I go to is it's a glute med weakness.
Yeah. So we went with some single leg press, trying to isolate it out. And when I started doing that, I definitely noticed my right leg was a lot more stable, and my left leg was a lot less stable. There was that shaking every time I would bring the press down, about maybe like a half squat. For some people that's a full squat. So there was some shaking, some instability on the way down. So that, and also it was in, I did single leg extensions, which I hadn't done in a long time. It was the same problem. I had a lot of instability, a lot of shaking, bringing the weight from the extension down. I'd notice it all in my hips, and it was just kind of one of those things like, okay, there's obviously something wrong on my left side. It seems to be in either my hip or my glutes. It's got to be one of those two. And then like you said, we were doing the glute training to try and see if there was a weakness there. I think it was a couple weeks later when I really started noticing the lower back pain. And I was watching back some videos, and I was like, it's got to be this butt wink that's my lower back pain problem. So we went from saying, okay, it could be the glutes to maybe it's the hips. We looked at a lot of squat U stuff. There was about 4 or 5 videos that I watched of squat U stuff that could be an issue. I tried getting into some squat shoes. It didn't seem to help much. Like you said earlier, I tried different stances, pointing out my toes. I tried so far as to a west side squat, and it still was not helpful. So there was clearly just something wrong physically with me. It was not form related. It was not something I could fix in the squat. It was something I had to do outside of the squat to fix. I think there was only one stretch that I eventually landed on actually doing, and that was a groin stretch with a band. And I'm going to have a video up at some point showing the stretch and a before and after of my squats, and you'll find that on our TikTok and our Instagram if you're interested in looking at it. But basically what you do is you tie a band around a fixed point, and then you tie it around the inside of your thigh, and then you're going to let your hip open up. You're going to let it sit for a little bit, and then you're going to close it back and squeeze your glutes. I like to push my knee forward a little bit to get extra stretching, and then let go and still squeezing my glutes, and just repeat that over and over again. I did it about maybe 5 each side for a set, and I'd try and hold it for a couple seconds, about 3 seconds, and then I'd let it go. So I was in the gym doing hack squats at the time. I was late. Like, I didn't get up early enough to get my stretching done, so I was like cold going into these hack squats. I knew it was going to be light, so it wasn't a really big deal. But my knees hurt so bad, and my hips hurt so bad that first set. Like I said, I was cold. I didn't do any of these stretches yet. And I was like, man, this hurts really bad. I don't know how I'm going to get through this. And I was like, I'm going to try these stretches real quick and see if something helps. Well, I start on my left side because I know that's my weakest side. Do a set of it and get back on the hack squat. Doesn't feel as bad. I'm like, okay, we're getting somewhere. I do it again. So I've got 5 sets. I'm doing 5 sets of 10. It's supposed to be 5 sets of 20, but I hurt so bad that I just didn't want to do 20 reps. So in between each set, I'm stretching my hip out. Finally, it gets to a point where I have no more knee pain. And I haven't had, I've not done a squat with no knee pain in like a long time.
A couple of years probably, right?
Yeah, I was very shocked. I was like, this actually feels amazing. So after that, I decided, well, I don't want to overstretch my left side and not do anything on my right side. I open up my right side a little bit. I'm like, all right, things are moving really well. By the end of it, I did some air squats, and most of my butt wink had been completely eliminated. I felt no knee, hip, or back pain at all. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this, my hips were actually really tight and hurting when I was doing that first set of the hack squat. Granted, I was only doing 1 plate on the hack squat. That should be like nothing.
Sure.
But I was in so much pain. So that's pretty much the story of how I fixed
Yeah, so to clarify some of this stuff in a way people can understand it. So what's going to happen if your hips are immobile or if they're physically uneven? Like I have physically uneven hips, and that may have actually contributed to my IT band issue, definitely contributed to my torn labrum. But even if your hips are even standing up, if you have a mobility issue on one side you don't have on the other, as you squat, your hips do shift. And I had mentioned to Nathan, when we had some back and forth about it, he didn't necessarily agree, but I had mentioned to Nathan that it seemed like on the backside, a backside video of his squat, that one butt cheek was slightly higher than the other. So even if you have even hip standing, an immobility issue could cause a hip shift during your squat, right? And what that's causing is your QLs basically run like guy wires from your hips to your spine, like this. They actually run like fingers. But if you think about it as like a triangle pattern, like it runs like guy wires to a tower, and they help stabilize the spine, and they help stabilize the hips. So if your hips are misaligned, you have one overstretched and one overcontracted, and it really could cause pain in either side. But it will cause lower back pain. So, like, butt wink being the same way, but it's rolling. It's the opposite in that it's rolling forward instead of a side-to-side difference. But nevertheless, you're still putting pressure on those QL muscles. And then because of that, you're putting pressure on your spine. In my experience, it seems like it's rare to actually have spinal damage from a QL injury, but they feel like hell. And you're smart in that you felt it coming on and knew to rehab it right away. They've happened to me quite a bit, deadlifting, squatting. I've had a lot of QL injuries, and most of the time it's because of I haven't been to the chiropractor regularly and my hips are misaligned. So pushing slightly harder with one leg and not the other during the deadlift. It's another thing that's caused some QL injury for me. And then, lastly, for me, just honestly not respecting the weight on deadlift causes a QL injury more often than anything. But it's all actually from the root cause of it is a misalignment in the hips. Either because they're physically misaligned or because they're coming out of alignment during your squat or deadlift. So, but yeah, I mean, that's going to, there's not a whole lot in the gym you can do well with lower back pain.
I don't
Even
know.
some like heavy upper body work. You can flat bench fine probably with your feet down, but you probably couldn't do a Larson press. Something that's super taxing on your core, like you're probably not doing. Like, you're probably not going to want to do a pull-up, stuff like that. Like, just because the jar from jumping down is enough to kind of aggravate your lower back. Definitely, if you're into calisthenics, plyometric, stuff like that, you're definitely not going to do a box jump. You're not going to do, like, very individual based on whatever your workout calls for. But my biggest advice, preventative medicine, is to, especially in it now, I told y'all the only thing I felt like was different in my training was my lack of mobility. You need to be doing mobility regularly, and if you can afford it, you probably need regular visits to a chiropractor so you can get updated x-rays and also make sure you're with somebody that knows how to realign your hips. So, and hip misalignment comes often from people that sit a lot on their job and stuff like that, because we even here sitting now, I'm always favoring a hip. Like I'm more on my right than on my left, or like me personally, when I'm driving, I lean to the console, so my right hip's always hot. So guess which hip's always high? My right hip's high. I would encourage you to learn to sleep on your back, you and the listeners. I'm a side sleeper. I've always slept on my right side. Guess which hip's higher than the other? It's my right? So, like, I mean, it can cause little things like that kind of add up. And, honestly, the average gym goer probably isn't going to see issue from hip misalignment, not a big one. But when you're involved in a strength sport, man, that's, it affects your stability in it. It affects how much weight you can move totally. And if you actually are unlucky enough to injure yourself because of it, it makes you miss practice. And I would rather have a person that is aware that they're injured or about to be injured in the gym squatting an empty barbell or plate than a person squatting nothing at all. I mean, honest, I would rather it be 20% of your max than no squats. I mean,
that's fair. Something is better than nothing. At least you can practice in some way.
You can practice technique, how you're driving through your legs. You can do mobility, something like that, but like, don't hurt yourself to the point that you're going to miss the gym. And I'll say this, if you've already had an injury, I would not be doing any of the static stretching if you have an injury present. we always put a disclaimer on this isn't medical advice, so don't be fucking stupid. Like, we're not doctors. Right. But if you actually actively are injured, it's too late now. Don't stretch, because you could make it worse. You could overstretch it. So. But a little preventative maintenance goes a long way, and like we talked about in one of the first episodes, man. You can work on something, and you can get better in all these areas. But while you're getting better in those areas, you're neglecting another. Yeah. So there's always a new. It doesn't matter how good you get at powerlifting or strength sports at large. There's always something new or something old to work on. Yeah. Always. There's it's just the way it is. You know what I mean? Like, part of it. Unless you're Danny Grigsby and you're just always good at everything. You just win. You win powerlifting. As jacked as that guy's upper body is, I can't lie to you, his bench is underwhelming. What did he hit, like 450? 434. 434? Which is a good bench press, don't get me wrong. Right. I'm not taking anything away from the guy. But the guy's got like 22-inch arms. Yeah. You think that, I'll be honest too, though, there is no lift weight cut affects more than bench press. Yeah, so him cutting 10 or 15, 20 pounds. Yeah, because he competed at 242, which he's normally at 275. I don't think he normally weighs as much as 275, to be fair. I feel like he probably comes in the middle of the weight class. Yeah. So, I figure he lost 20 pounds, but that's a lot off your bench press. Yeah. You can fake your way through a squat or a deadlift. I actually think my deadlift leverages are better at a lighter weight. I think I'm a better deadlifter when I'm lower body weight, and me and Ron's talked about that before. A lot of people are. Mm-hmm. I do feel like bench press goes the way my body weight goes. The bigger my body weight, the bigger my bench press. Yeah. So, it's hard. It'd be hard to cut weight and then go put a big bench on the platform, in my opinion. But he's a god. For sure. He kind of is. How do you, he had first of all, he had, before you even deadlifted, he had nearly a 1,200 pound subtotal. Yeah. Actually, he did have a 12 because he had 777. Mm-hmm. And 424? 434. Yeah. So he had a 1,200 pound subtotal. Yep. Before he deadlifted, and then he only went and deadlifted 1030. Yep. Just 1030, guys. Just 1030. So at a minimum, he totaled what, 2234, 22 something. It was, I don't know, something just ridiculous at 242. Something that 242s aren't supposed to do. Like when I was watching Joe Sullivan's meet recap, and I saw his deadlift was like 727. I was like, all right. I can be. Now, I'm not touching his 800-pound squat anytime soon. Don't get me wrong. 7.7 seems doable. Yeah, and his bench was mid-4s, I think. It might have been 474. He might have been the one that benched 474. How do you fuck with that 800-pound squat? 1,000-pound deadlift. You got to be Danny Grigsby. I bet Joe Sullivan's glad that Dan was a weight class up. Did Joe Sullivan compete at 220? I thought he was at 220, wasn't he? I don't know. I thought he was at 100, yeah. I thought he was. I thought he normally competed at 242, but maybe. I thought he was at 100 for this meet, and that Dan was at 105, which is 242. You mean 110? 110, my bad. Yeah, 110, yeah. Maybe. I don't know. I guess I didn't look that deeply. I just assumed, because last time he competed, I think he did compete at 242. So. Maybe he cut them. I don't know. So who beat who? If were they head to head? And who won best overall lifter? That would tell us. Because it would have to be one of those two guys. For sure. I don't know. I was just looking at the recaps for them two, really, because I follow them on Instagram. It was the same meet, right? Yeah, it was the same meet. Man, some of these meets are fucking jacked, dude. Yeah. They're just like stacked. Just like, don't even bother showing up to these. God, you're going to lose. I'm not gonna lie to you. You show up to meet them. You show up to meet them, yeah. I mean, you're going to get your ass kicked. You walk up like, hey, I know you're about to kick my ass, but you're a cool guy and I wanted to meet you. They'd probably take that really nicely, though. They probably would. They'd probably wing you the rest of the day, all right, you're okay. I'm not gonna lie to you. When next time Ron's, he's currently just trying to get back. Next time Ron goes to a big meet, I would like to go watch him. I would like to go watch him just to maybe meet some of the people he competes against, because I know that he's rubbed elbows with some of these guys. Ron's one of the most competitive 220s in the world, and it's hard to believe because he's from Alabama like the rest of us. But I mean, the guy's good, yeah. Especially when he does drug tested meets, he's extremely good. So, I mean, I would like to go watch Coach compete against some of these guys for sure. I really believe, especially with Ron's bench press, he got enormous bench press. I think he can hang with a lot of them personally, but I honestly want to compete with him.
Honestly, like I know
you
he
want to
said,
compete with Ron?
yeah, I know he wants to go to the 242 class, and
He's
feel
gonna
like
be a thick 242. That boy's a monster at 220.
I know he's huge.
He is. That's the biggest back and neck I've ever seen on anybody.
He kind of does. It's like
he's got like a strongman neck and back on a 5'7", 200-pound lifter.
Ron, if you're listening, this is not an insult.
No, it's not. We're impressed.
He kind of looks like a Ninja Turtle.
Oh yeah, because his back is so goddamn big.
Like,
yeah, absolutely.
It's just like massive.
Yeah, his
like,
back's huge. It's crazy.
Like just put some dreads on on Raphael, and here we go. We got Ron.
He's a badass. He's a badass coach, man. But he's fun. You know, getting the pleasure to lift with him in that 622 for 4.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that's heavyweight for anybody.
Yeah, I couldn't.
That really is like. I mean, there's not unless your name's Dan Bell. That's heavyweight for you.
Yeah.
Like, period. You know what I mean? That's like super heavy, and he honestly kind of fucking smoked it. Like he's elite. Alabama's like sneaky got like a bunch of good lifters, and like Eugene Perry coming up. Like I got to lift with him. He had I managed to stay healthy, I thought he would have been the only person to out deadlift me. But God, if he ain't a good squatter. I mean, he had a 660 or 700 pound squat, right?
Did he?
Yeah, and then bench press was pretty good, and then had a very competitive deadlift. Like, and then of course everybody remembers Perseus.
Yep.
Like, he was a legend. I don't think he's coming back, but
Probably not.
Jonathan Oldham. I mean, you got a lot of these guys, but I don't think anybody's easier to root for than Ron and Jawan.
Yeah, Jawan's fun to watch.
Those two guys are. That's the biggest thing about those two. I talked about. I like it when powerlifting's a little chippy, and it's not that either one of them are they're not disrespectful to competitors at all. I know they're really good guys, but you can tell they want to win and want to be there, and they get excited about what they're doing. And it's not just this like I'm gonna go pick this weight up, set it down. They're gonna golf clap me, and I'm gonna walk off stage silently. Like they're excited about what they're doing, and that's fucking fun. So they're easy. Those are two easy men to root for. They're also high character dudes, so it makes it easy to root for them. So
another one like that's Derek Thistlethwaite.
He's excited to be there. Yeah.
He's
the difference between him and them is they're not going to shit talk people. And I believe he probably is in the warm up room. Like,
is that your warm up?
Yeah, like,
is that
it?
Like watching
is that all you're warming up with?
You done warming up?
Let me know when you're done with it. I'll start where you leave off. Like, that's the way he is.
He walks up cold and he's like, "You done warming up? Cool," and just picks it up or whatever, whatever it is. Just like. Yeah,
I fully believe that dude probably talks some trash behind.
I would probably just laugh though. Like if he did that, I'd just be sitting there laughing. I'd be like, "You're such a prick," but I love it. It's funny.
Yeah, he's the greatest thing in powerlifting right now, in my opinion.
He's not powerlifting. He's retired.
That's what he says.
He said he's retired. Then he said he's coming out of retirement. And then he dropped a deadlift, and he's like, "It's time to retire again." Because he poked so much fun at Jamal Browner for dropping deadlifts all the time. So when it slipped out of his hands, he was like, "I know what's coming." I looked at the comments. Someone was like, "Jamal would have got it," and I was like, "Man, you want to talk about a knife in the side, just like
twisting it." That guy's still. I mean, he's still younger than everybody. I mean, can he still compete junior if he wants to? Is he still sub 24? If not, he's right at
23.
It. Yeah, so I mean, you gotta think about how strong that guy is and how much more he has left in him.
Yeah.
Like, that guy has more upside than anybody. And I think he's good for the sport. I don't care. I know there's probably some people with some strong opinions about him, but I honestly believe he has one of the greatest coaches in the world too.
I don't know who his coach is.
Man, Josh Bryant.
Josh Bryant?
Josh Bryant of trying to think here. What's Josh Bryant's company's name? Let me just look.
I
don't know why I'm blanking on this, but I mean, this guy's trained some of the best in the world: strongmen, bodybuilders, everybody. You name it.
I'm surprised I don't know the name. Then maybe it's just me because I always have kind of like a lack of remembering names of anybody, whether they're celebrity, powerlifter.
Jailhouse Strong. It was Jailhouse Strong.
Jailhouse Strong. Okay, I've heard of that
He
company.
is freaking elite, dude. I mean, he's good. I mean, trains athletes of all kinds, but is especially good as a powerlifting coach and a strongman coach.
Yeah.
He's outstanding. I can't believe I could remember his name before I could remember Jailhouse Strong. But
yeah, Jailhouse Strong's like as soon as you said that, I was like, oh yeah, I know that company.
That guy's elite.
Yeah.
Like he's genuinely, in my opinion, like best of the best.
Yeah.
Like we talked about that on the podcast one time about who would have to coach us if we could afford it. Josh Bryant would probably be one of them, but I mean, I don't know that I would have him coach me before, Chad Wesley Smith or somebody like that. But like, man, so good, so good.
Just because you mentioned his name, did you see Chad Wesley Smith made a story post, talking about handlers? Did you see that?
No, I did not. Let's talk about it. Let's get in.
So basically, what he said was, like, someone asked him, is it worth it to have a handler or not? He basically said having a handler is overrated unless it's your coach, because it's like a single sport, right? Single person sport. You should know whether your coach is there or not, what your warm-up should be, what your attempt should be, how everything feels. He said if you're like really uncomfortable or whatever and you just feel like you need it, he's not going to tell you don't do it, but he just thinks it's kind of overrated overall. And I kind of like, I don't want to say I disagree with Chad Wesley Smith, but I feel like he's a little bit more, I think it really boils down to the person, right? Because like someone like me, I could feel comfortable being by myself because I program myself, I train by myself 90% of the time. I'm pretty much by myself no matter what. Now, I come to you when I have some questions or to get advice or just some back and forth, kind of make up my mind on things. But like 90% of everything I do is just me doing it. Now, someone like Desi, she couldn't do it without somebody there to help her.
Right.
Like, just sheerly from her nerves and her, inexperience in the sport, she would need somebody there to guide her along the way because she's just going to be nervous about it.
I think some of us are just like that. I'll say this, though. To Chad's point, I think that most people come in, they just got a random handler.
Right.
They got somebody that can wrap knees, and that's it, right? Like there's no real advice to give, and then outside of that, they're out of the way.
That's kind of what...
Me and you are both qualified coaches, so like when we go handle each other, like we have good... Well, I understand that, like, Ron told me on the front end of my meet that he was not going to be, because he had so many lifters, he was not going to be in the warm-up room with me the majority of the time. He'd stop in and check, but he could not guide me through warm-ups, and that was fine. You were there. We went through our warm-ups. We warmed up fine on everything. Like, it wasn't an issue. But also, having you back there, like I said, me and you both qualified coaches, we have good advice to give each other when we're warming up about what we see and stuff like that. I really do feel like about 75% of people, when they have a handler, it's just their buddy that wraps their knees at the gym.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm taking up for Chad Wesley Smith in that moment, I think that he's right. If that's what your handler is. I think if your handler is a qualified coach, not even necessarily your coach, it's probably a strength to have him back there.
Yeah. And if
it's an average Joe, if it's just Jim Bro in there wrapping your knees, like...
Right.
Because let's be honest, you really don't need a handler at all if you're not competing in wraps.
Right.
A real handler. The only time you need a real handler is if you need somebody to wrap your knees.
Yeah.
Like,
or
outside of that,
multiply.
Yeah, suits or something like that. But like, for what we do, like you're there to help, like load up my warm ups, which we all help each other with anyway, and give me advice. Well, the advice is what I want you there for.
Right.
Like if you stand around and don't do dick, that's fine. Like I want to know what you see, stuff like that. I want advice, things like that. Those things are positive things in my mind.
Yeah.
Now, if I know that I have to go and I'm going to be handled, I ain't going to have a handler. Or if I don't have you, Austin, Ron, or my wife as my handler, probably ain't. I'm probably going solo too.
Yeah. But
again, all of us are either qualified coaches or a qualified lifter.
Right.
Like have real advice to give.
Yeah.
Like outside of that, I ain't no shot at Austin, but he would probably be my last of the pick of you four. But any of you four I'd be fine with.
Yeah. And the only reason is because he's not actually a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. But he still has plenty of great advice to give.
And he's got a lot of experience, so he's still got plenty to give, just from what he sees.
Yeah, and Austin will hype you up too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a good hot man. So, he has his own strengths about it. But
and if you need someone to wrap your knees to the point where they're going to snap in half. He's the guy.
Well, I don't disagree with Chad Wesley Smith. I don't completely agree either. So
yeah.
But like I said, like I don't think most people are showing up with a handler that's a qualified coach.
Yeah.
Like me and you have that benefit with each other all the time. Like,
I think that's a fair way of putting it. We
program, we coach people through power meets. We do all these things. And I think it's just there's plenty of good advice to give. Yeah. And I think it's really interesting too. A tale to that is, I don't think me, you, and Ron disagreed about a single thing on meet day.
I don't think so. I think we were all pretty
much on the same page about the whole day.
Yeah.
And it was in my opinion, it was Ron's show. If Ron would have said do this and not do that, we would have done it.
Yeah.
But I think that he was pretty much in agreement with anything me and you chose to do that day. So, I mean,
maybe that
should tell you what the quality of having a qualified handler with you as opposed to just somebody from your gym to wrap your knees.
Right. Someone who says, goes out there, maybe you struggled with something or there was some instability in your squat or something, like you shifted forward or whatever, and they're just like, oh, it's a good squat, just keep going, man. You got it, didn't you?
You know what I mean? Like, I need to know these things. Case in point, man, like all three of us are qualified coaches. I go get injured on my second squat without any indication that was going to happen.
Mm.
I don't necessarily want a handler up my ass being like, you got to retake that. You got to do this. You got to do that. Or,
someone who doesn't.
Yeah, I don't need also at that moment, like if my handler would have said, you need to drop out of the meet, I probably would have gone and done it.
Yeah.
But I had you and Ron saying, like, if you can go, go. And that was enough reason for me to go.
And pretty much our reasoning was like, you can Larson press a reasonable amount. And what we saw pretty much was it hurt really bad. You were limping around. We were like, okay, first thing we need to do is let the pain subside a little bit and see where you're at. And when we noticed you were putting weight on your foot pretty quick after, it was like, okay, there's something here, so you might be able to survive the day. And of course, it's if you want to, because no one's going to be like, yeah, you can put pressure on it, go back out there. Right. Yeah. It's kind of like that's such a scary situation because you don't want to go out there and hurt yourself again. And I think we mentioned that on your meet recap. We don't want to PR our injury count.
Yeah, exactly. That's a number you don't want to see grow often. And I've got plenty of them. It just is what it is. But like I said, man, you can't
you can't trust just a gym bro to give you good advice.
No, you can't. I mean, if that's your handler, then Chad's right. If you have a qualified coach back there with you, he's not right.
I guess, and maybe that's
like you tell me, like you look at who his wife is. You don't tell me he's back there,
right?
I bet it ain't overrated to her that day.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I'm sure because he presents everything in a nice way. I'm sure he wasn't a chud about it.
No. He basically was just like He thinks it's overrated to have a handler who is not your coach.
Yeah.
And essentially his reasoning was because they don't know like your habits, they don't know like things to watch for like your coach would, stuff like that. And I guess like if it's someone, like you said, if someone like me and you, we send each other lifting videos all the time, so we kind of know what to look for. We know what our form looks like 90% of the time. So if we see something different, we can be like, okay, that was different from all your other squats. So let's figure out what happened here and go from there. Yeah. So
it's quality advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, you just got some dork in your way.
Pretty much.
And warm-up rooms are fucking crowded.
Oh, God. It's getting bad. Like, it seems like there is less space and more lifters. Like every meet that I've been to.
You want to see a bad warm-up area, and this is no shot at anybody throwing it because this is a good meet to go to. It's really great. Come to Iron City in Birmingham.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we have, 2 or 3 combo racks max, and it's basically just like a narrow piece, like side stage, basically.
Yeah.
It's rough. It's very, very crowded. There's not a lot of places to go. And it's going to be a lot of lifters.
Yeah.
We're going to have four full heats probably. Yeah. So, just is what it is. But I thought Ron's was actually surprised. The one at Maverick was surprisingly comfortable for me, despite it being small.
It was
more hectic. I think it was more hectic during my flight than it was during warm-ups, to be honest with you.
I feel like everyone was pretty cooperative, and that was a blessing. Yeah. Like, there wasn't any like drama or tension or anybody hogging anything. Everyone was real easy to work with, There were several times when people jumped in and helped us load weights. I helped load weights for other people. Like, we were just kind of like, we know, like, and that probably goes with just experience in a powerlifting meet. You just kind of know it's like, it's really hectic.
Having a good handler back there, that's where that comes in handy too.
Yeah.
It's like, we've got 10 people on one rack that's got to warm up. Like, fucking throw some weight on there. Let's go. Like, also, lifters being nice enough. If I can unrack something from lower than my normal rack height, I don't mind doing that.
Yeah.
Like, it don't have to be catered to in my warm up. To be honest with you, maybe toward the end on my heavy singles.
Yeah.
Like, but like, you know,
like
warming
a plate,
up, like
2 plates, just
yeah,
like,
especially on bench press where I'm taking a hand off anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if the rack's too short. I don't. You know what I mean? Like, it's a little harder on squat, to be fair.
Yeah.
But like,
squat, you can't really do anything about other than push on your toes if it's too high, and if it's too low and you're not used to it, I guess you might get in a really weird position.
And I do when it's too low. Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't. I feel like it loads my hips up weird, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, easy things like that. I think a smart handler, a coach, like I said, I think it goes pretty far to have them in the background there. So.
We kind of had two subjects, didn't we?
Yeah, we kind of burned through yours pretty quick.
Yeah, I guess I was expecting to go a little more in depth on it, but it was kind of just like, yeah, this is what I did.
Do your mobility. And,
yeah, that's really where we landed on it. It's just like, just to circle back to it, I guess, is just if you notice pain, this is a big thing that Squat U preaches. If you notice pain, it's not necessarily where the pain originates is the reason behind the pain, right? So my lower back's hurting. It's not necessarily because my lower back's weak. There might be some...
It's because your hips were putting your lower back in a bad position.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My hips were tight. They were pulling my pelvis up under my hamstrings, basically. Yeah. And then it was causing too much stretch in my lower back, which was putting pressure on it, stretching it too much.
This is coaching advice, not medical advice, but the two things I would address first, if you're having issues with your hips, specifically if you're having lower back pain in a squat, which is a quad dominant exercise. It's not uncommon to have a lower back pump when you get done squatting, but it's a quad dominant exercise. I mean, if you're having more back pain than leg pain, which is probably an issue, two things I would do first would be address your glute medial weakness. Especially one thing that'll accompany that is if you have a weak glute med, you might see a lot of knee valgus in your squats. So that's when your knees like cave in. Right? So that may be a good indicator. Specifically, if it happens just on one side, that could be a real big indicator that you have a glute med weak on one side, not the other, or even like a hip stability issue. But like I said, I would address glute med because it affects the stability of your hip and the stability of your knees.
In the worst case scenario, it's not that, and you just get stronger glutes, which is just going to make all your lifts better.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Worst case scenario, you got stronger glutes. And it doesn't, it doesn't fix it, but you're stronger. Great. So that's the number one fix I would go to. The second is probably going to be, and this is what happened to us, is going to be some type of hip opening mobility. We sit a lot as Americans. It's unfortunately an American problem. It's an American habit. And that really does manifest as hip and lower back problems more often than not. A really, really good thing that we didn't speculate on before, you just had a major job change when you were going from working 25,000 steps a day at work to sitting a lot more at work.
Well, I actually don't sit. I stand, but...
Well, even standing still, we talked about we have a tendency to shift our weight on one hip or the other. Well, that can cause... And that is imbalances.
Absolutely a factor because I do shift around. I usually stand on one leg and then I'll stand on the other leg and like move around.
Absolutely. Nobody, very few of, especially when we're working actively, are going to stand perfect pressure in both legs. Most of the time, somebody's going to pop a hip and lean that way or lean the other way or even lean like on a desk over something. Like you're always going to have something going on. I've already told you I drive this hand on the console, one hand on the wheel. Like that makes that hip height higher than the other. The way you sleep at night, when I talk about, I'm a side sleeper, that further exacerbates my hip issues. Like there's little things like that that can go a long way with addressing hip mobility and then just where your hips sit. Like if you have one higher than the other, a good test of this is one hamstring tighter than the other. Yeah. That's how I first become aware of my hip issues. My right one, if I'm sitting in like just a figure 4 single leg hamstring stretch, I can touch my left toe. If I go to my right, I cannot come close to touching my right foot. Same thing if I do a single leg hamstring stretch standing up. much less mobility than that in the right. And the reason being is because that hip is higher. Because that hip is higher, the hamstring connects here. That hamstring gets pulled up with the hip, and it's just physically tighter because the hip's sitting higher, right? So, like, stuff like that. The quickest way to tell, honestly, and you can do the Faber test and stuff like that we talked about on Squat U. Quickest way to tell about hip misalignment is just see which hamstring's tighter than the other.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah, I did. I think it was the Faber test.
Yeah.
And I sent that to you, and there was definitely noticeable difference in which way is that?
So the Faber test tests internal and external rotation of the hip.
Yeah, so it was external rotation.
Yeah. So,
external rotation was worse on my left leg. I need to retest that actually. See if that's helped. See if that's changed anything. I'm sure it has because I'm literally the groin stretch is opening my hip up and closing it. So I'm sure that mobility has got better.
And the groin stretch he's talking about is basically just a side lunge. Like you're actually sitting in a 90. You have one knee facing forward, one knee facing out, and you're going to lean into the outward facing knee.
Oh, no, that's not what I'm
That's
doing.
not what you're doing.
No,
You're not doing
the
the banded one?
The banded one that I'm talking about.
Was that the squat test? Like were you squatting with the band around you?
No. This was on the, and I'll just show you, and you may be able to explain it in a better way than I can. But this is what I'm talking about. So I'm basically kneeling down. There's a band here. I'm pushing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So he is in a lunge, and he's basically got a band tied to his front leg, and he's letting the band draw it out, and then he's pressing against the band and pressing it in, and he's repeating that motion over and over again.
Yeah,
so,
just until there's a good stretch, and then squeezing the glutes as they're being stretched.
Yeah, the one I was talking about is the one where you do with the kettlebell.
Yeah,
lean
you were
into
talking
the
about the
which is great for your hip imbalances too. That side shift, yeah, is what it's called. Yeah, Squat U is a great place. Most of what we did, we should credit them. Most of what we talked about tonight in terms of fixes we either learned on Squat U or some of it I learned in real physical therapy. But Squat U is a great resource that could keep you out of a PT office.
Yeah.
So
we'll tag them in our post.
For sure, you absolutely need to do that.
Any time I have any questions regarding squats, I typically go to Squat U first, just because he gives out free information and it's really good information. Some people may dog him because he can't squat that much or whatever, but he's not a power lifter. He is a physical therapist.
He's a physical therapist.
There are not a lot of physical therapists who are power lifters.
He happens to be a physical therapist that works with lifters.
Yeah.
And he's really smart about it. A couple of people to credit him, he's worked with, and they actually have differing opinions on several things, but he's worked with Matt Winning. He's worked with championship level Olympic lifters of all tops. He's worked with Martins, strongman, Travis Ortmeyer. He's worked with like some absolute monsters. Did he not work with Jawan Garrison? Did Jawan not have a video with him?
Did.
Yeah,
I think he did.
I mean, even local heroes like Jawan. I mean, this guy's worked with anybody who's anybody.
Yeah.
So he knows. I don't care if all he squats is 225. The guy knows plenty about the sport of power, strength sports at large, and plenty about how to fix things.
Yeah. Rebuilding Milo. Let's go ahead and plug that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you another, and it is actually related. He talked about shoe choices. Squat U talks about this quite a bit, but your ability to flare your toes. It's huge in a squat, but what he fixed in Travis Ortmeyer is he had a flat foot, supposedly, and he was able to put toe wedges in and spread his foot out, and then he automatically had an arch because his big toe was relocated to where it was supposed to be. So, but if you want to know why it has to do with the hips, if you're flat-footed, you have more likelihood to have some knee valgus and less likelihood for your glute med to control what it's supposed to control, which is that knee stability and your hip stability. So, like, being flat-footed could ruin a lot of things for you and could lead to some hip and knee injuries and stuff like that. So, like, even as much as just swapping shoes to something that they recommend, or even, hell, me and you wear the same shoes. We wear a $40 pair of Wittens from Amazon. They're fucking awesome. But, I mean, even small things like that. So that's what we're talking about with minutia, like how you sleep, how you lean when you drive, how you sit, what shoes you wear, like, affects you much more than you realize, especially when you... He's an upper level intermediate. I'm an intermediate. But when you start getting intermediate and beyond, and you start really dealing with, basically, if you're dealing with weights that average gym bros never would dream of touching, So if you're intermediate or up in powerlifting, it's the little things that'll take you out of powerlifting.
Yeah, for sure.
It's no longer the big things. Like, because if you've made it this far, you know you have a good work ethic. You know that you can do most things better than your gym peers. Like,
unless you just happen to be in a good powerlifting gym.
Yeah, I mean, like, but most people listening, and us too, train in a commercial gym, like, we're better than most of our peers, except for Kevin Heatherly. He's a fucking monster. And,
I still got him on deadlift, I think.
For now. Because that's been a meteoric rise. Because he was talking about, not too long, when I met him, he was talking about how little he deadlifted.
Yeah, he pulled 647, 648. No, 649, right?
Yeah, something like that. He's but I mean, he standing overhead presses like
300
plus.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So,
he's got me beat on that.
He bench presses 5, so he's 20 years old, so the kid's a fucking monster. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be the little things that take you out. Believe it or not, I believe that.
Yeah,
your lack of attention to detail is a detriment for sure. I mean, I'm living it right now. I have a pretty bad injury.
Yeah.
And it's the lack of attention to detail that got me here. So
just to roll back just a hair on the shoes. Ever since I've been in a wide-toed shoe, I will never go back to a standard toed shoe.
So I agree with the exception of one thing. When I'm doing my cardio, like if I'm really trying to pace my walk, because I don't run, I'm not going to run, I don't care to fucking run. If I'm really trying to pace my walk, I do prefer to be in a running shoe.
That's fair.
But I will tell you this, my feet physically hurt after coming out of one.
Yeah.
It's better during the walk. They feel better while I'm walking, but it is a nightmare to take them off. And I can't wait to put back on some slides or some wide-toe shoes after that. Like, it fucking sucks.
Also, even though some people think it's weird, toe socks are the truth.
I have really good toe display without them, so I don't have to wear that weird shit. But to be fair, like I grew up skateboarding and shit, so I've always worn something with a wide toe box.
Yeah.
If I haven't been in Vans or Etnies or DCs or something like that when I was a kid, I was probably in like Jordan 1s or something, all super wide toe box shoes for the most part.
I wore a lot of Vans as a kid. That was kind of like my go-to.
Everybody here in the South wears boots. I've never worn a pointy toed boot. I always wear a square toe.
Yeah.
So again, it's a wider toe box than a pointy toe boot, stuff like that. Me personally, as a coach, I actually see more feet issues in women than I see in men. It's probably because of wearing heels. To be honest with you.
Because you think about how squished their toes are into a heel. It's like, I can't imagine. I wouldn't want to.
No, I don't want. And that's the whole point. That's the same thing that happens to men if they wear a pointy cowboy boot.
Yeah. Or dress shoes that are really pointy. Because there are some that I have a pair that I bought just because I was out in Texas.
Oh, we size up, so I don't have to worry about it.
Man, those suck to walk in. And they were pointy, and I was like, it hurt my feet. Hated them.
Yeah, that's one reason why. I mean, thank God it's trendy to wear like more of a slip-on, for men to wear more of a slip-on or like a slipper-style shoe now with suits, because much better than fucking lace-up, pointy-toed fucking dress shoes, dude.
Yep. Miserable.
Real miserable.
You got anything else to add?
No, time to dad joke.
I think it's time to dad joke.
Okay, I think we're gonna go to Dad Says Joke because we can't Dad Says Joke. Dad Says Jokes because we can't think of our own jokes.
I mean, we probably could. We just don't come prepared with a joke. Now, I did see one from Dad Says Jokes. I may have sent it to you, and I was laughing pretty hard about it. Oh, that's a good one. I can't take my dog to the park anymore. The ducks keep biting him, but I should have known this would happen because he's purebred.
Good one.
So bad.
My wife has banned me from making any more breakfast puns. She says if I make any more, I'm toast.
Did I say?
But my kids keep egging me on. This was posted 2 hours ago, so.
I feel like I've said that one without the kids part.
My kids keep egging me on.
My kids keep egging me on.
Sad news. My fat parrot died today. but it's a huge weight off my shoulder.
I think we're regurgitating a little bit.
I don't think we did that one, have we?
I feel like I've heard.
You sit around and read them all the time. So.
That's true. I could just be like, man, I know this one.
That was from 9 hours ago.
So me and my girlfriend were kissing on the sofa, and she said, let's take this upstairs. And I said, okay, you grab one end and I'll grab the other.
You're right.
My wife dated a clown before she started going out with me. I got some pretty big shoes to fill.
Good one.
I think I sent that one to you.
A husband says to his wife, Mr. Olympic condoms have arrived. I think I'll wear the gold tonight. The wife replies, why not wear silver and come second for a chance? For a change. Sorry. What? That's pretty rough.
Oh, that's brutal. My girlfriend dressed up as a policewoman and told me I was under arrest on suspicion of being good in bed. After 2 minutes, she said, all charges were dropped on a lack of evidence.
My wife says I'm getting fat, but in my defense, I've had a lot on my plate lately. Oh, that's a groany one.
Oh, what do you call an angry doctor?
A therapist. Which reminds me of a joke my uncle used to tell me all the time. If you ever complain to him about being mad, if you say, "Hey, Uncle, I'm pissed off, man," you know, he'd always reply with,
"I bet I do."
It's better to be pissed off than to be pissed on.
That's what my dad used to say.
Boy, that's some fucking philosophical bullshit right there.
My dad would say that all the time.
I'm going to keep that one in my back pocket for future reasons.
Me too.
It's better to be pissed off than to be pissed on.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's it for today. Finished our drinks.
We did.
I always finish mine like halfway through the episode, and you always like to let it ride out.
That's my second one, though, to be fair.
That is true. You did make two. But, yeah. So, I guess we'll see you guys next week. We'll figure out what we're going to talk about.
Rate us 5 stars on Instagram.
On Instagram?
On
Spotify? Spotify.
Yeah, Spotify.
You can like us on Instagram.
Yeah, you can like us on Instagram.
And
you can follow us on Instagram. Like our posts.
Yeah.
You
share
follow us
them.
on TikTok. Share them. Yeah, that'd be good.
Share. Every time we make a post, share them.
Share them.
Just like constantly just sit, have your phone on our Instagram. And every time it pops up that we've posted something, share it immediately.
Like it, share it, save it, comment.
That's all we're asking. We're not asking much. Just be completely devoted. Just be completely devoted. That's it. Like
we're gonna start a religion soon. We'll start taking tithe money anytime now. There's actually already a link for that.
There is a link to a PayPal that you can donate that will go directly to us.
We won't buy drugs with it.
We won't buy...
we won't buy anything but test and trend.
Just only black market trend. That's it. So.
I mean, I would like my test to be covered too, to be honest with you. I mean, the trend's a big help. Don't get me wrong. If you're feeling generous, it's about $150 a month for a cycle of HGH. So
just give us $300 a month.
Yeah,
that's not that much.
No, not at all. Hell, if we have to, give us $150. I'll do a single IU a day. We can split it.
What's the point at that point?
I don't know. It's pretty goddamn good at 2. Like, it can't be ineffective at 1.
Probably not.
The most I've ran is 3.
I think 1 to 2 is like the health benefit side and not the anabolic side. I think that's what Ben Pollack said. There's like a diagram or something that says it. This how much for this how much for that.
I can tell you it's fucking awesome. So if anybody wants to donate some HGH, I will fucking take it.
You could literally just drop some off.
Just drop it off. We'll give you the address. Fuck it. Just send it
you can give them your address. I'm not going to give them my address. I like the privacy of my home.
Ain't nobody showing. Only 5 people listen, dude.
That's true. I think we're up to like 9.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
That's pretty solid.
Yeah, 9 listeners.
Thanks, all 9 of you.
I think we'll be on episode. This may be episode 20.
Damn.
Can you believe
20
that?
20 weeks.
20 weeks.
I can't believe it. All right, I got to go. My hips hurt. I'm old.